Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here with the final normal episode of any of my vlogs this year. Everything kind of from here on out, and even this to some extent, is going to be Game of the Year content. Starting tomorrow, I have, I don't even remember what. I'm basically doing a look back for the first couple days of what I did in 2016, what those lists look like, and then we're diving into stuff like best moments of the year, best games from this year will be like the end. Best games that I played this year for the first time that came out in another year. Best games I revisited this year, slash remasters. Biggest disappointments of the year. All that kind of stuff is basically what the rest of the year will look like here. And today kind of is like the half kickoff of that, in that today's video is going to be going through the games that you won't find in my end of the year considerations. As always, I am one person, and while I played 80-ish things this year, 80 plus things this year, I couldn't get to everything, obviously, and so these are a number of the games for one reason or another that will not be in best of, worst of, any kind of lists, because I just didn't get to them and didn't get to spend any time with them. So just kind of, it was the easiest way to go through it was just kind of looking at Game Informer's 2017 release dates post on their page, on their site, and so I just kind of went through month by month, and these are the games that I didn't play. So starting in January, we kick things off with Gravity Rush 2, which I bought but never actually got down to because I never actually played the original Gravity Rush, so I guess it was Gravity Days was what Gravity Rush 2 was. I think that's right. Anyway, didn't touch it. I think I bought it, and I think I also recently won it when we did trivia with What's Good Games girls at PSX. They were giving away games if people could answer trivia questions right, and I think I got that and GT Sport. And neither of those I played. But yeah, Gravity Rush 2 was the first big release of the year that I didn't touch. Followed up with Kingdom Hearts 2.8, final chapter prologue, blah blah blah. I didn't play. Resident Evil 7, I'm not a horror person, so I was never going to hop into that, so you won't find that on any lists. Tales of Berseria is a big RPG, JRPG, that I've never really gotten into the Tales series, so that won't be anywhere. Similarly, you have Yakuza 0, didn't touch it, won't be on any of my lists. Moving into February, we have Neo, and after last year's foray into Bloodborne, Neo was definitely a nope. For Honor, something that intrigued me, but when it turned into just more of a multiplayer-focused kind of game, and not that it doesn't have a single-player component, but just didn't call out to me, so I never dove into that. Halo Wars 2 I have, and I really kind of wanted to dive into at some point, because I miss the RTS genre, but I just didn't get around to it. In March, we had Ghost Recon Wildlands. Again, not really into the Ghost Recon family of games, so this one didn't pull me in either. Nier Automata, I've wanted to hop into, and I've had most of the year, and I just never got around to it. The last few weeks, I just kind of checked out a little bit in terms of game overload, and I looked at, a few weeks ago I had a post of, like, these are the games I want to play by year's end, and I got to about half of them, maybe, but then, yeah, the rest, it was just like, nope, I don't really feel like diving into anything new. Unlike a lot of the game sites, I don't get 2 weeks off at the end of the year to just devote to video games. I've still been at work and stuff like that, so yeah, I just didn't have the time, and I've just kind of fallen into the comfort food of Destiny, just kind of playing that, checking in, writing about all the Game of the Year stuff, and so yeah, Nier Automata is up there at the top of my list of things to play in like January and February of 2018, so it'll probably be on one of my lists next year, but didn't get around to it this year, won't be getting around to it this year. Also in March, we had Thimbleweed Park released, and while I appreciate the art style and design of that game, I've just never been a huge fan of the old school classic adventure games, so this was never really a game that I was probably going to get to. In April, you had the release of Ukulele, and I have no history with Banjo-Kazooie, so I didn't get around to that. I had no interest in really diving into Ukulele, especially when it came out, that it was just kind of it was maybe too much of a throwback to those old-school collect-a-thon-y things. Alternately, I loved Super Mario Odyssey, which was super collect-a-thon-y when it came out later in the year, but yeah, the Ukulele just didn't pull me in, didn't play it. Flint Hook was a game I wanted to try and get to because of how much Alex O'Neill sung its praises prior to launch, but just never dove into that. Telltale's Guardians of the Galaxy, Telltale, I'm at the point where I'm going to wait until all those games come out, and Guardians of the Galaxy is fully out at this point, but it just kind of fell off. Like, everybody seems so underwhelmed with it that I never hopped into it. It's something I'll get to eventually, I'm sure, because it'll just be, a 10-hour playthrough or something like that, but not this year. In May, we had Prey, which I was never going to touch because, again, horror stuff isn't really my main cup of tea. It takes certain special kinds of games like BioShock to really pull me into that genre, and when one of Prey's big selling points is the mimic characters that can be a mug 1 second and then just jump at your face the next, I was like, nope, not for me. Injustice 2 is I enjoyed the story of Injustice 1. I want to play Injustice 2 at some point and enjoy that story, but I'm not enough into fighting games to have hopped into that one. Friday the 13th, while I did play a little bit of it, pretty much almost exclusively at Extra Life, I haven't played enough of it to really weigh in on it, so it will not be in any kind of consideration for better or worse. Rime is something that I've seen at events and stuff, but I never actually went hands-on with and didn't play when it came out. Emily is Away 2, I did go hands-on with at PAX East this year, and I have it, I've picked it up, I purchased it, I just never actually sat down and played through it, so that's something that'll be, again, on my list of things to really dive into in the January-February lull that we have coming up. In June, we had ARMS, which I was never really going to get into on the Switch. It just didn't ever look fun to me, never looked really appealing. And then the re-release of Danganronpa, I think. Danganronpa, Another Episode, Ultra Despair Girls. I think that was the PS4 port. I've basically never played a Danganronpa. And so I was thinking I might dive into the PS4 ports up that they launched in advance of Danganronpa 3, but I didn't. I haven't, so you won't see any Danganronpa stuff on there. In July, the only real big game that came out that I just didn't dive into was Splatoon 2. I played maybe an hour of Splatoon 1 on the Wii U, and I hated that they forced you into motion control kind of stuff with the gamepad, and it just kind of, I know that once you get to a certain point you can turn that off, but it was just a terrible first taste of hey, don't make me play the tutorial and play the game like that. And so yeah, Splatoon 2 didn't get anything from me. In August we had another Yakuza Kiwami came out, didn't dive into that. And Life is Strange Before the Storm, that was one I was waiting for, all 3 episodes. The 3rd episode did just come out, but kind of too late in the year for me to really hop in and play those games, play through those episodes. So that'll be a 2018 game for me. In September, we had Knack 2, which I wasn't going to play because fuck Knack. We had Divinity Original Sin 2, which is among the top of my list for things I do want to play, given how much praise it has been heaped upon from friends and people whose tastes I trust. It's a PC game, so it's another deterrent. Not that I don't have a worthwhile PC that could play it, but I typically just enjoy hanging out and sitting back on my couch and playing video games, and not really sitting at a desk or something and playing video games at this point in my days. So, but it is something I want to go ahead and basically say, nope, I'm going to fight that and I'm going to play it, but I don't know when, if anytime soon. Dishonored Death of the Outsider is something I really want to get to because of how much I love Dishonored and Dishonored 2. Dishonored 1 is one of the games that I revisited this year, the beginning of the year, after how much I loved Dishonored 2 at the end of last year. And Dishonored, like, the revisit of Dishonored will certainly be among one of my, like, best of the year lists. And so I wanted to get to Death of the Outsider. I just haven't yet. So it's another one that I will play eventually and hopefully enjoy as much as I have enjoyed other games in the Dishonored franchise. Metroid Samus Returns is the only handheld game that I bought, if you're not counting the Switch, this year. Bought it, just never got around to playing it, because I've never actually played a Metroid game. Yeah, I never played Super Metroid on Super Nintendo, and I never played original Metroid or or Metroid 2, which this is the remake of on Game Boy. So Metroid Samus Returns is something I want to dive into at some point. I just don't pull out my 3DS enough to have actually made it worthwhile. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is another one of those fighting games that I want to dive into because I like the characters, at least on the Marvel side of things, and actually watching the Marvel vs. Capcom tournament that Up, Down, Down and / the WWE did with IGN really, like, sold me on the game, wanting to try and play it. I just never actually did. Another Telltale game that I didn't dive into this year was Batman: The Enemy Within, so Batman Season 2, didn't play it. Danganronpa Version 3, V3, Killing Harmony. Again, I haven't played any of the Danganronpa games there, but I have people I know that love and swear by those games, and I just haven't ever connected enough with them yet. In October, we had The Evil Within 2 is the big game that I didn't play. Again, horror, not a genre of my choosing, so not anything I ever really intend on diving into. October is the month that you had, Odyssey and Assassin's Creed Origins and Wolfenstein 2 all launching on the same day, and I did manage to get to all three of those, so yay! In November, you had Call of Duty World War II. After finally breaking my Call of Duty list streak last year and playing through Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered, I just didn't feel the need or the desire to hop back into Call of Duty this year for World War II, so it stays off of the lists. Sonic Forces, I didn't hear great things, so it wasn't, and I'm not a huge Sonic fan, so it didn't pull me in. Super Lucky's Tale is one of those, like, one of the very few Microsoft releases, Microsoft exclusive releases that we got this year that might have gotten me to boot up my Xbox, but it did not. Valhalla, something that came to Vita, and I want to sit down with, but just haven't had the time, haven't devoted the time to. Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I've kind of written off Pokemon at this point. There's just too many, and it's not something I'm gonna really, like, the Pokemon days are behind me, so I don't anticipate hopping back into that series. Maybe with whatever they do on the Switch version, we'll have to see, but it's entirely possible I'll skip that as well. And then lastly, in December, the only real game of note I saw on the list was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I don't really have a connection to the Xenosaga series, including Xenoblade Chronicles, so I just didn't jump into that one either, despite my enjoyment of the JRPG. So those are, I think, the big games. And PUBG. PUBG's got to be on there somewhere. I didn't play that either, and don't anticipate playing it. So no PUBG on this list anywhere, even though it is now out. So yeah, those are the big games you're not going to find on any of my lists, for better or worse, because some of these might have been on the worst of or disappointments of 2017 list, but some of them might have also been on the best of, so they will have to wait for some other time. So let me know what you didn't get around to this year that you wanted to in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. Stay tuned all week for all of my Game of the Year content moving forward. Have a Merry Christmas if that is what you celebrate. If you celebrate Hanukkah, I hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah. And happy holidays to whatever it is you have celebrated this year. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.